Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dive Deep. I'm Shelby Cornett, and I'm the ministry assistant at Cambridge City Christian Church. And this is Danny, our lead pastor.
It's me. How's Shelby today?
Wonderful.
Wonderful, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Summertime is here.
It's hot. Well, not yet because
Yeah.
it's morning time, but
it's going to be hot. Yeah.
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 How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah. Doing pretty good.
Good.
Yeah. Just enjoying the summer. And
Yeah.
it's, you think about it, it's going pretty quick already.
It is.
We're recording here on the 21st?
Mm-hmm.
So, June, and we're only about a week or so away, and June's over
Yeah.
already.
Isn't today the first official day of summer?
Yep, I believe it is. So, yeah, pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Flying by.
Yeah, it really is. School's going to start soon.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It is. Don't, for the teachers watching that.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey, you ruined it.
Sorry I brought it up.
Yep.
So, we're doing a Proverbs series.
Yep. We're in week 3.
Week 3, be careful where you drink.
Yep.
Should we share a disclaimer on this too?
Nah, I think
No.
most people watching this I doubt very many youngsters are watching,
Yeah. That's true.
watching our podcast on Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if they are, they're probably old enough anyways.
Yeah. So this week was be careful where you drink.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about all kinds of stuff, boundaries.
Yeah, we did touch on quite a few different things. It was a challenge this week.
Yeah.
So the text is about boundaries within marriage, like the boundaries you need to have in order to protect your marriage. But what I also did was I kind of expanded that a little bit to just talk about general boundaries when it comes to sexuality. Because that's where most people get themselves in trouble, is when they go beyond those boundaries. And so I thought it was kind of neat that this passage was from Solomon to his son, which a lot of the Proverbs are kind of addressed that way. And it was Father's Day, so it was almost like...
I didn't think about that.
It's like, here, son, let me give you some advice. So it was kind of like the Father in heaven, but also Solomon, through Solomon.
We were getting the talk from our dad.
Yeah, getting the talk.
Our dad, Danny.
That's funny, getting the talk.
Yeah.
The birds and the bees.
That's what I felt.
talk
I was
from
like,
Dad,
oh,
right?
man, I have to listen to Danny talk about this.
Because I'm old enough to be your dad, right? I'm sure my kids felt the same way. They were sitting right there in the front row. I'm sure they were like, "Oh, great," on Father's Day. But
I sat with Elijah, and at one point I looked at him. I'm like, oh, this is our dad.
Your work dad and their real dad.
Yeah.
Well,
We made
sorry.
it through.
Sorry I ruined your Father's Day. So.
That's okay. And now we're just gonna get right back into it.
So it talked a lot about setting boundaries, making sure that we are very careful with who we interact with, and I talked about the different forms of sexual activity that is spoken against in the scriptures, and we went through that whole list. But what was really cool was at the very end of the passage. So in Proverbs 5, verse 19, it talks about I was joking around about cards, things that you should and shouldn't say. One of the things it talked about was a wife being
A cistern.
A cistern. I said, don't put that on a Valentine's Day card. That probably won't go over well. It also talked about a woman being like a doe, like a deer.
Yeah.
That you probably don't.
I wouldn't like that.
You wouldn't like if Lucian put that on your card?
No.
All
I don't
right.
want to be either one of those things.
All right. You don't want to be a cistern or a doe?
No.
Oh, I wonder. Okay. And then, but at the end, it talked about this word. What was it again? I'm trying to remember. My mind just went blank.
Gall?
Well, no,
Or-
not the word gall. At the very end.
Oh, the intoxicating.
Intoxicating.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't think of it off the top of my head real quick. The intoxicating. Now that would be good
that
to
would be.
be.
I'm
That
pretty
would
sure
be-
there's a song called like "Drunken Love" or something.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
That's nice.
Yeah. That's
It's a
what he-
compliment.
Yeah, and really, if you look at the text, he's saying if you want that kind of love, you have to have boundaries. That was the point that I was trying to make Sunday, was from the scripture that God, I think, was wanting us to understand, is that boundaries are actually something put in place so that you can experience that and you don't have the baggage and all the stuff that comes along with going outside of those boundaries. So
And we think of boundaries as a bad thing,
we do,
but they're not
Yeah.
always. I mean, they can be
well,
in certain situations.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, sure, right. If they're done for the wrong reasons,
Right.
Yeah, but I mentioned Sunday something that's right. There's this idea throughout the scripture. The scripture often talks about two ideas that seem like they would be at opposites actually work well together.
Hmm.
Our culture, though, doesn't usually work that way. It's usually this is good, this is bad, there's no in between. I mean,
Hmm.
we see that going on right now in the political realm, where we see if you're not on my side, you must be evil. And, and then we see it when it comes to human sexuality as well, that, you can't do both, it's got to be this way. And what God is saying is no, He's saying, you know what, you can love in a very amazing way, but if you do that within boundaries. See, our culture doesn't think that those two things can coexist, but God says yes, they do.
Hmm.
By putting boundaries in place, you can have much greater love.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that was kind of the gist, I think, of what we were getting
Yeah.
at on Sunday.
Because I thought if there's no boundaries in your marriage, you're not going to have a good.
Well, no, you're not going to have a good marriage. Where's the trust? And then, it was funny because I kind of felt like I was doing a little bit of a sex ed class that I teach, and I did include a little bit of the material that I teach in that class. But there's other things you're bringing into it by going outside of those boundaries. Things like STIs, STDs, obviously pregnancy. And then there's the baggage, the emotional baggage. That's one of the things I talk about with the kids when I do the classes is we tend to think of sexuality as just simply a physical act.
Right.
But you're bringing the mental, the emotional,
There's
the social.
a lot more to it.
There's a lot that goes into it, and I think a lot of people, and especially a lot of younger people, don't think of that.
Hmm.
They don't think of the things that come along with it, and that's what Solomon's saying to his son. He's saying, hey, if you go outside of the boundaries, you cheat on your spouse, you're bringing all this stuff. I thought one of the neat things that he mentioned was that you're going to lose things. Like he mentioned that somebody else is going to enjoy your wealth, which is funny because, in today's world, you bring that into the current world. I mean, if I go out and cheat on my spouse and then we get a divorce, she's going to get half of the stuff, right? Which she should, or at least half of it. And somebody else is going to get to enjoy that, So I just thought that was kind of funny and pragmatic what he was saying there. But it's true.
It makes sense.
It makes total sense. So
something I thought about when you were talking was like, if you don't want to tell someone about some kind of sexual act that you're doing, it probably isn't a good thing.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that would be a good, because if I say, I'm having sexual relations with my husband, it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and everybody's like, oh,
good for you.
That's what you should be doing, right?
Yeah.
I would hope so.
But if it's something else, or
Yes.
if you don't want to tell someone you're having sex before marriage or blah, 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 then like maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, there's a reason why. And I brought that up, that in one of the points was that if it isn't something that's positive, then why do it? Like
And you talked about it's like short term happiness or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I could go on and on just about that one.
Yeah, and we see that a lot. I mean, I talked about consequences, and you don't usually hear that. I kind of use the little example when I teach the kids. I talk about songs or TV shows or movies where I'm like, okay, so I'm sure you've seen a TV show where it at least shows or insinuates sexual activity, or a song that does that or whatever. But I'm like, how many of those songs have a part where it says, and after that we went down to the health department to get checked for gonorrhea? I mean, the consequences are often left out because nobody wants to hear that, but they're real.
They show the fun parts.
Right. And that's often left out, and so it was, we covered a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And I wrote, like, the very first thing I wrote was, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And I just wanted to write that, like, over and over and over and over. Like,
yeah, that's pretty much the proverb.
The
that
base
the
of
whole,
everything.
The whole thing. I mean, you could even say that can almost cover really the entire scripture. You know, if that's where it all has to start, is a fear of the Lord,
Mhm.
a reverence. You know, that's what fear means, reverence, a deep reverence for God.
Mhm.
And yeah, and if you do that, then all these proverbs, you should be like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
And I should be doing that because you revere the Lord.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the foundation.
And we talked about staying away from temptation. And it's like
Mhm.
temptation is everywhere.
Always, yeah.
And it's not just when it comes to sex.
No,
Because there's
no.
drugs,
Oh,
alcohol,
yeah.
any kind of
Yeah.
sin there is.
Yeah, and one of the disadvantages we have with our wealth is that because of the wealth that we have, we have I guess you could say, an easier access
Mhm.
to a lot of these temptations than maybe in other places.
Right.
Like, you know, with drugs, you have to buy them, and well, we
Mhm.
have plenty of money. I know that one of the things that I've talked with people about and read about is, um, you know, there's a lot of drug problems like down in Mexico. Like they
Mhm.
have a lot of deaths. I mean, it's
Mhm.
really bad down there. But the reason that that's happening is because of the drug problem in the United States, because we have so much wealth to go
Right.
out. Even those who are poor have money to go out and buy drugs. That it's causing a big. That's
Mhm.
what's leading to the many of the
We have
problems in
easy
Mexico.
access to it.
So we have easy access, yeah, and it's not just with drugs; it's with alcohol. It's even with sex. When it comes to
Mhm.
sex, you know, there's
Dating
websites
apps.
and all these things you can buy and pay for. You know, I mean, it's wealth. Money is not money in and of itself is not what's wrong,
Mhm.
but the stuff that comes with it. It
And
just makes it.
technology.
Yes. Yeah.
'Cause if you want drugs, you
Yeah.
text somebody,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
like you said, you want to have sex, you
Yeah. You can
download an app. There's an
exactly.
app
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. It's a huge problem and a
Yeah.
challenge in our culture today.
Yeah, even compared to 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, in the passage there, he talks about staying away from the adulteress's door.
Mhm.
Well, there's different doors today. It's not so much
Right.
the door, although I guess, you know, it still can be, but it's, you know, internet, it's even movies and mass media. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's
It's
the door is
crazy.
actually much easier to get to than it may be. You know,
Mhm.
back in that day, you had to like physically go to their door.
Yeah.
Now you can pull up an app on your phone or whatever.
Right.
It's we're in a much tougher spot than they were. Even.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Yep.
That's all I had.
That's it. Well, no,
I think we
I think we
covered it.
Yep. Yep. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a very interesting week. I did think it was funny that this topic popped up on Father's Day.
Yeah.
So you got the talk on Father's Day.
Yeah.
So-
I can't even get away from it from my work, Dad.
So yeah, sorry, Shelby.
I'm 25. I live on my own.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. I had a couple of people come up to me after service Sunday who were older that really even
Mhm.
appreciated it. I think that we just need reminded of these
Older
things.
people need to talk.
Well,
I
we
guess
all, I
so.
mean, well,
That-
we all need
yeah.
to talk. I mean, I brought up that statistic. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah,
statistic? Yeah, it's true.
That's when I
It's
looked at
true.
Elijah, I think, and we
It's
were like,
true. Yeah, it's if you didn't catch it, the statistic is that the highest rates of STIs and STD in our country right now are among seniors. Yeah, it's pretty startling. So that just shows you that, you know, it doesn't matter what age you are.
It's
you
not
need these
us.
principles. So, huh?
it's not us. It's not me. Not the young people.
Well, the young people have pretty high rates too, but I'm not
Yeah.
giving the young people a free pass. But yeah, it is pretty startling. They have
Yeah,
the
it is.
highest, most
That's
rising numbers.
Weird.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that I've read is in nursing facilities. It's in these communities, these senior communities.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Stuff, things like that. Yep,
Interesting.
it's true.
All right. Moving on
Yep.
from that.
Yep.
What's next week?
Gosh.
He's not going to know again.
I know.
2 weeks in a row.
I've been really bad about this because usually I have my sermons done a little bit in advance, but I've been bad. I've been working
And
on
it's
them
still
the
early
week
in the
of.
week. We record this before
Yeah,
it's posted. so-
Yeah, we do record kind of early, but yeah, I've got to get better.
Hate
about
what
that.
God hates.
Hate what God hates.
Hate what Travis knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, he pulled it up. On cheated. Hate what God hates. Wow, that could be a pretty good one too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. So next week we'll talk about hating what God hates. And I think that's it. Yeah, we'll see you next week.